So again, we'll just start with just a few minutes of just mindful breathing. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. Now we can do the loving kindness meditation. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. Now we can do the loving kindness. May I be free from fear, conflict, and delusion. May my family and friends be well, happy, and peaceful. May they be free from fear, conflict, and delusion. And if you're in the working world, may my co-workers be well, happy, and peaceful. May they be free from fear, conflict, and delusion. May all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings be free from fear, conflict, and delusion. Okay, we may now rub our hands together and just gently massage the face. Actually, what I find useful sometimes is that when your mind is caught up in some drama, which of course is a form of delusion, I find a good technique apart from doing the mental noting. It's only thinking, 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 only thinking, thinking, thinking. is to just rub your head, rub your forehead mindfully. And when you do that, it makes you aware that all the drama is inside your head. You understand? It's not out there somewhere. It brings you to the present moment, and you realize it's all inside that brain of yours. That's all. It's a delusion, mental delusion. And it's all coming from the frontal lobe of the brain. That's where thoughts are. That's what thoughts are actually. They have no solid reality. Only thinking, thinking, thinking. And to be more precise, they're just electrical impulses in the frontal lobe of the brain. It's quite amazing when you think about it. So you can say that humans are constantly being deluded by these impulses, these electrical impulses in the brain. That's right. And this is why an aspect of wisdom is to really understand what thinking is. You can understand the use of thinking, the purpose of thinking, but also the limitations of thinking. And how thinking can easily become very obsessive, very irrational. Because we need rational thinking, logical thinking in daily life. But very easily, without mindfulness, it can become very obsessive, very negative, as you know. And a lot of our mental suffering comes from negative thinking, from negativity. And you can really see the negativity, say, just on the internet. And it comes from our conditioned mind. Because we're conditioned, to label, then to judge, criticize, compare, sometimes to condemn, to like or not to like, to want or not to want, to have aversion, resentment, hatred, ill will, envy, jealousy, and so on. This is a universal condition. And that's why all human beings are conditioned with mental defilements. Even Siddhartha Gautama, who later became the Buddha, had mental defilements. It's something we can't escape from. It's just a part of our social conditioning. Just like a lot of fears we experience. A lot of it comes from social conditioning. So thinking has its place, its purpose, but it also has limitations. Just like knowledge, we need some knowledge, some information, but even knowledge has its limitations. And as you know, you can be, very academically inclined, and you can have more than, 2 or 3 academic degrees, but still have no wisdom or very little wisdom. Because knowledge, information is not wisdom, because we don't understand ourselves. And in my line of work, I meet so many different types of people, including, university academic people. And I can see how limited their academic knowledge, their PhDs, their doctorates, how limited it is. And this is why I like to say, when I'm in the university environment, that the Buddha, he did not have a PhD, either in, Buddhist philosophy or, Buddhist knowledge. And one thing I've noticed in North American culture is that people's heads are filled with trivia. So much trivia about so many things. And what I find funny, and at the same time I find sad, is that all the trivia that people, fill their heads with, it is so important to them, so important. Whether it's about movies, books, people, writers, authors, science, philosophy, consciousness. And you see how the mind becomes so superficial because it's trapped in the intellect, very trapped. And this is why the greatest thing to have is a silent mind, a mind that is quiet, because then it has space. And a mind that's filled with trivia, too much thinking, too much information, too much facts, it's a very shallow mind. It's a very shallow, superficial, petty mind. And you see, the intellect like to say, I know. I know this or I know that. But this knowing is not wisdom. It's just information. So you can have so much information, so much trivia in the mind, and you're still very insecure about yourself. You're still very insecure. You can be a very professional person. You can make, huge salary, but you're still insecure. And you still have an image of yourself. You still take this image very seriously. And you're always concerned about what others are thinking about you. Because when we cling to an image, there's also fear. The fear of public opinion. Because you want to protect that image. We mentioned before, one of the fears we have is a fear of public opinion. What people are thinking about us, what people are saying about us. As if you can prevent people from thinking and talking. Because, people are always thinking, and of course, people love to talk, right? People love to gossip. They love to gossip. And one moment people will praise you, the next moment people will blame you. Because that's an aspect of the world, praise and blame. Two of the worldly conditions. And you realize too that, you could be the most wonderful person in the world. Kind, considerate, and so on. But you'll always find one or two people who just don't like you. They'll always find something negative to say about you. Because that's just the world is. And a good example of this is the Dalai Lama. He's a very well-known, very respected spiritual leader, teacher. But you find some people, they can't appreciate him. They all have something negative to say. Another good example is Mother Teresa, Mother Teresa of Calcutta. Because that's just the way the world is. We mentioned last week about the 5 aggregates. First we have this body-mind process, this physical and mental phenomena or process. And we said that we're alive because we're a process, constantly changing. And just the process of digestion is extremely complex. Unfortunately, most of us don't have to worry about it. We just eat and we go about our business. Because the body has this incredible intelligence to deal with this very intricate process. I only came to learn about the digestion process because I took a half-year course in biochemistry many years ago. And the course was about the digestion process. And only then I came to learn how complex it was. So many enzymes and acids are at work, to break the food down, so the food can, the body can absorb nutrition and expel the rest. Very intricate. And once I met a lady, actually a Canadian lady, who had severe digestion problem from spending many months in India doing social development work with Mahatma Gandhi Foundation. And she told me how she was able to go to one of these health centers. And she did a 1 month fast, 1 month. But, it was carefully monitored. And she was only allowed 1 tablespoon of water one every hour, just 1 tablespoon of water. So the body needs water, the cells need water. But the idea of the long fast was to give the body complete rest, so the digestion process could return to normal. But fortunately, most of us don't have to worry about the digestion process. And we mentioned too that we tend to overlook this fact that we're a process of body and mind, simply because we are social creatures. We use language, we use labels to communicate, I, you, he, she, us, they, them, and so on. And of course, we use names to communicate. And names are just social labels. And again, we tend to forget that names are just social labels, because we're brought up with the names, and of course, we identify very strongly with our names. There's a strong attachment, just like birthday. Your birthday is so important. And if somebody forgets your name or calls you by a different name, you get upset. You're hurt. It's like if somebody close to you, if they have forgotten your birthday, it's big drama. But really, a birthday is just a conditioning. It's not permanent reality. It's just a conditioning in the mind, just like age, and age is a conditioning that the child, is conditioned with as it gets older. Your 3rd birthday, 4th, 5th, 6th, and so on. But when you develop some wisdom, you begin to realize that birthdays are not important. And you get to a stage where you realize that age is not a number. And it really is true at my age. And I stopped counting once I turned 30. I stopped counting. And you're as young or old as you feel. It's really true. It's not a number anymore. So don't cling to numbers. It's really how you feel. So we mentioned that when somebody dies, when there's a death, we usually say somebody dies or somebody passes away. That's our normal human language, human convention. But looking a bit deeper with mindfulness reflection, we begin to see actually it's this process of body and mind. It simply stops working. It shuts down. The process just stops working. And you go a bit deeper and you have the 5 aggregates. And last week, we explained about the 5 aggregates. The physical form with its sense organs. There's feeling or sensation. There's perception. There's mental reaction. And there's consciousness. And I mentioned last week that when we first hear about the 5 aggregates, so you read about them, they seem a bit complicated. And we don't see how they're related to our daily experience. And this is why I gave you a simple example of the 5 aggregates working. And then you go a bit deeper, and you have the 32 body parts. You can find a list somewhere on the internet or in a book. And then you go a bit deeper, and you have the 6 elements: earth, water, heat, air, space, and consciousness. And we also mentioned too that when we hear about the elements, they're only concepts, just an idea. And this is why I would like to go through the elements with you. Then it becomes a reality. And the more you reflect on it, then it becomes more and more of a reality. Because actually, if you want to know what really continues after death, it's really the elements. The elements just go back to nature, because they're a part of nature. And we came out of nature like this. Now we can start with your hair. Just feel the hair on your head. Feel the hair on your head. The hair is related to the earth element. The earth element. Just like you can feel your fingernails. Just feel the hard quality of your fingernails. That's also earth element. Anything that feels hard in the body, like bones and so on, it's earth element. Now, in order for the hair or the nails to grow, the water element is involved. And as you know, we're about 70% water. Now just feel the bones in your fingers. Just feel the hard quality of the bones in your fingers. You have calcium, magnesium, which is the earth element, right? Calcium, magnesium. Of course, you have a heat. There's also the heat element inside the bones. And if you can feel your knees, you have bigger bones in your knees. You can just feel it. Much bigger bones in your knees. Again, calcium, magnesium. And you have heat. The heat element is also there. Now, run your tongue over your teeth. Very easy thing to do. And you can feel the hard quality of your teeth. Again, you have calcium, magnesium, earth element. You have heat also. Heat element is also there. And you can feel the wetness in the mouth. The wetness in the mouth is, of course, water, water element. Now, let's go to tears, tears. Tears, of course, is the water element. And if you taste your tears, what do you taste? Salt, right? You taste salt. And what element is salt? Earth element, right? Sodium chloride, salt. But it's easily dissolved. And we go to perspiration or sweat. You have the water element. And of course, if you taste your perspiration, again, you taste salt, the earth element. Then we go to urine or pee, which is a part of our daily experience. And again, you have water element. And of course, there is salt and other minerals, which is the earth element. And if you've ever experienced urine therapy, you will know this for sure. Believe it or not, urine therapy is a very ancient therapy used in India, China, Japan, and so on. And of course, if the urine is fresh, it feels warm, doesn't it? It feels warm. So the heat element is there. Now, let us go to blood. Blood is a very interesting subject for reflection, because you have the water element, then you have salt, of course, and other minerals, and you have iron. Iron. So in blood, the earth element is very prominent. Salt, minerals, iron. Of course, there's heat, and there's also oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen. So the air element in blood is also very prominent, like the earth element. And as you know, the body has to be breathing constantly to supply the brain and the cells in the body with a constant supply of oxygen. So you can see the air element is very prominent, just like the earth element. And when we breathe mindfully, you're in direct contact with the air element, right? Breathing in and out. Breathing in oxygen, expelling carbon dioxide. And for example, trees, what the trees exhale, we inhale. Very interesting. So we are very connected to trees. And at the same time, when we breathe mindfully, we can experience directly the element of space. The space in the lungs, that you can feel it. Because space is one of the elements. Because there's space in the body. Of course, there's space outside the body. And without space, nothing could exist. This is why space is considered an element. Now, the heat element, of course, comes from the process, we're this constantly changing process. And we have a metabolism. And of course, we're mammals, we're warm-blooded creatures. And as you know, when we do exercise, you can feel the heat element very quickly. And the body perspires as a natural way of cooling the system down. And as you know, the reason why we have to wear clothing, layers, call it, sweaters, jackets, winter jackets, and so on, gloves, hats. In the winter, it's really to keep the heat element in. Because if we lose the heat element, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. Now just feel the back of your hand. Just feel the texture. The heat element is there. And of course, if you feel your neck, you can feel, maybe it feels warmer. Of course, if we have a fever, the heat element is has increased because of the fever. You have the water element also in the skin. You have the earth element, and you have the element of air. You have the four elements there: heat, water, air, and earth. And you go below the skin, you have, of course, flesh, sinew, of course, bones, other body parts, and of course you have the internal organs. All has earth, water, heat, and air. In some traditions, they only speak of these four elements. They call it the physical elements. But of course, there's also the element of space and consciousness. Now think of the air cavity. There is space. There's space inside the air cavity, which allows sound vibration to take place, giving rise to hearing consciousness. So without that space in the air, there wouldn't be hearing consciousness. Of course, there's space in the mouth cavity. There's space in the esophagus or the windpipe. Of course, in the lungs, which you can feel directly when we breathe in mindfully. There's space in the stomach, space in the intestines. And there's space in the nostrils, which allows in-breath and out-breath to take place. And we're sitting in the space of this room, or your room. Now, for example, say if the room that you're sitting in at the moment, if that room was filled with boxes, from floor to ceiling, you wouldn't be able to sit in that room, right? You'd have to find another room that has more space. So space is quite important. You'll notice that normally when we enter a room, we tend to look at the things that are in the room, furniture, sometimes people, or things on the wall. Rarely are we aware of the space in the room, unless it's cluttered or it's crowded, with people, if you happen to have lots of people there. But otherwise, we very rarely are we really aware of the space. And also, when we're busy thinking, you find that there's no space in the mind. But when the mind is more calm, more silent, you begin to experience more space, more awareness. Especially when you look outside. Either look outside through the window or you're outside. Because awareness by nature is open, it's spacious. And when we're busy thinking, you find that there's no space. And this is why when we're obsessing about something, the mind just feels very contracted. You can actually feel the mind contracting. Because you're just obsessing about something, just one thing. There's no space there. And when we think too much, obsessing too much, you find that the mind becomes very tense, right? It's very tense, very cluttered. Whereas when the mind is more calm, more silent, there is more space. So silence and space go together. And people, before they had, internet and television, people spend more time outdoors. And when people spend more time outdoors, you had a sense of open space. And of course, if you've had that special experience of lying under the night sky filled with stars, you can expand your mind out into the Milky Way galaxy. It's quite extraordinary. But you have to go to a place where there's no light pollution, because you cannot experience this in a city urban environment. There's too much light. Just a month ago, I had this experience outside of Ottawa at a friend's cottage, far away from light pollution. It was quite extraordinary. Now, say the distance between your house and say downtown, where you live. Downtown, say the city where you live in, there is space. Okay, the distance between your house and say downtown of the city where you live, there is space. And there's greater space between, say, where you live and the next city to where you're living. And say, and there's greater space, say, between, say, your city and say, say, if you're in Malaysia, just think of Bangkok, Thailand. If you're in Ottawa, think of New York, or even Miami, a city that's much further away. And of course, there is vaster space between planet Earth and the sun. And planet Earth and the other planets in the solar system. And there is vaster space between our sun and the closest stars, the closest stars to us in the galaxy. They're only about 4.5 or 4.2 light years away. That's a very short distance in cosmic terms. And of course, there is immense space between our Milky Way galaxy and the neighboring galaxies. Immense space. And speaking of space, by human scale, the solar system is a vast place. By human scale, human size, the solar system is a very vast place. And yet it is like a speck of dust inside the Milky Way galaxy. Just try to imagine that. The solar system, which is so immense by human scale, is like a speck of dust inside the Milky Way galaxy. Just to give you an idea of how immense the galaxy is. So immense. And then to further boggle the mind, amaze the mind, there are countless galaxies. Think of it, there are countless galaxies. Sometimes it's good to reflect on this. It's called the big picture, seeing the big picture. Because it really helps to put things into perspective. And from the big picture, we can ask, where is the United States? Where's China? Where's planet Earth? And where is the pandemic? Where's the global pandemic? Sometimes it's good in our reflection, in our meditation, it's just good to reflect on the big picture, as they say, to see the cosmic scale of things. And you begin to see that the only qualities that give meaning to the whole of existence, the vastness of the universe, and the mystery of life on this one planet is loving kindness and compassion. The only qualities that can give any meaning to this vast mystery is loving kindness and compassion.
Would you say that again, please?
The only qualities that give meaning to this vastness of the universe and the mystery of life on this planet, because we only know this planet, the only quality that gives meaning is loving kindness and compassion. And of course, in the Dhamma, we learn of the 4 sublime states: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Equanimity. In these 4 states, there is great virtue and freedom, because the self, the I, is absent. It's not in operation. There's no self-centered craving or expectation. No craving, expectation, no clinging, no personal clinging. And that's why they're considered great virtues, sublime states. Now, when these elements come together to form a physical body, we say it is a male or female. When these elements come together to form a physical body, we say it is a male or female. And we give it names so that we can identify each other more easily, because this is our human convention, our human world. But if we look a bit deeper, we begin to see there is no permanent I, self, or ego entity. There's only the body-mind process, rupa and nama, mental and physical phenomena. Only earth, water, heat, air, and space. Only body-mind process, physical and mental phenomena. Only earth, water, heat, air, and space. And now we come to the 6th element, the element of consciousness. And consciousness, as the Buddha realized, is connected to the six senses, the five senses and the sixth sense of mind. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking, imagining. And consciousness is considered an element because without consciousness, we would not be aware of life, of existence, and we wouldn't be aware of the other five elements. So without consciousness, we would not be aware of existence, and we wouldn't be aware of the other five elements. And with consciousness and deep reflection, we begin to see that birth, existence, and death are parts of a process in a much vaster and timeless reality. With consciousness and reflection, we're able to realize that birth, existence, and death are only parts of a process in a much vaster and timeless reality. And in the silence and stillness of meditation, we're able to be in touch with the timeless dimension of the universe. Because the universe is timeless. And we experience eternity. This is what eternity is. The timeless dimension that we can experience in the silence and stillness of meditation. Many years ago, when I was fascinated with the idea of eternity, I could only imagine eternity in terms of the future. I thought eternity was, millions, zillions of years in the future. But when the mind became silent for the first time, one realized that eternity was now. It was not some far, far distant time in the future, but it was now. And we can experience it. And there's great peace to be in that timeless state. So we can be free from all the trivia, all the mental formations that the mind is cluttered up with. Sometimes it's very healthy just to empty that mind and experience that total silence and peace and freedom. Freedom from dukkha. Okay, so at this time, are there any questions? Any questions? If you cannot think of any questions at the moment, you can always send email.
My question,
Yes.
is this being recorded?
Yes.
Carly, you are being recorded. You are the star. You're the star of the evening. You're the evening star.
I want to listen again. I'm making notes, and it's really, I just want to say, wow, that's right. A lot to think about, or not
Yes.
think about.
Not to think. That's right.
Oh, Bhante, you are such a good teacher. Huh.
It's called the unknown, being in touch with the unknown. The unknown.
Okay.
Because when we fill our minds up with too much stuff, too much trivia, too much blah, 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 then we can never experience the unknown, the timelessness of the unknown. And also, we cannot appreciate the mystery, the great mystery of life, because life is a great mystery. So even, during the pandemic, we can experience the mystery of life. Instead of, just being filled with worry, anxiety, frustration, and so on. Because there is existence and there is the awareness of existence. There's a difference.
So my next question, you will let us know where we can hear this recording again.
Yes, it's on YouTube, Buddhist Embassy. Remember Buddhist Embassy?
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, I look up Buddhist Embassy on YouTube. I'm just learning how to use YouTube.
Yes.
So many new technologies to learn.
I'm just learning about Zoom, how to use Zoom.
Oh, yes, that too.
Thanks to visitor.
Well, I'm learning on Zoom, and it's a big thing to run a meeting, to host a meeting. I had a two-day workshop last weekend with my new group of students. And you know what? We did pretty well. Oh my God, I'm getting too old for this. But then age is it's not about age. There's no age.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Do some Qigong, you'll feel like 10 years old.
Well, I was dancing outside the post office in line today because I couldn't be bothered just standing there.
Good. Dance. Yes.
And everybody's sort of commenting, but they all started smiling, and
Good.
Anyway.
It's a form of Qigong, dancing is a form of Qigong.
There it is. I was doing Qigong. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
With or without music, it's the same. It's the same.
Yeah.
Hello, Bhante.
Yes. Hello, Brother Teo. Is it Brother Teo?
No, it's Michael here.
Oh, Michael. Oh, yeah, you're there.
Yeah. Sorry for it's a bit noisy here because I'm outside of a restaurant. I have a quick question.
Your problem is that you need some snow. You need some snow in JB where you are.
Yeah. It's getting a little bit cooler with some rains, but it's always humid and hot here. Yeah. I have a question. When we sit, when we meditate, we know that samadhi or jhana is not our ultimate objective, but ultimately we want to use the calmness or the stillness to observe and to develop our wisdom. But how do we make a planned meditation so that we can come out of this samadhi or jhana in order to move on to the wisdom or contemplations?
Okay, of course, with regular practice, the samadhi, the silence of the mind, becomes easier. You can say it's more accessible. But you can't force the mind to be silent, right? That's why patience is important, to be patient. You keep letting go, and you allow the mind to become silent. Right? You can even use some music if you like in the background, music or chanting, anything you like, or silence, or listen to birds. Listen to the birds, because you have tropical birds where you are. But I find in my own path that after the mind became silent, then I would read some Dhamma. Because when I read the Dhamma, when the mind is quiet, then my understanding deepens. I'm able to reflect, contemplate much deeper. Right? Whereas if you read the Dhamma, with a restless, reactive mind, your understanding is very, very superficial. right? They're only words. They're only words.
But often I'm not sure whether some meditators, we dwell too long in the samadhi. We dwell too long in the silence. And then we forgot what is the real objective of the meditation.
How long do you mean? How long is too long?
I don't know. It depends. For some people, they can dwell for hours, even in the stillness without doing anything.
Well, I would say maximum 1 hour. Maximum 1 hour. But even half an hour. It depends on the individual, of course. It can be 20 minutes. It can be 30 minutes. It can be 40 minutes.
So that would mean that we need to program, or we set a time that we need to wake ourselves up of the samadhi or the meditation, so that we can move on to the Dharma studies or observations of the Dharma. Is that right?
Yes, you can have a timer if you wish. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, but the thing is that if you have a timer, sometimes you're expecting it to ring, and that's not good.
Yeah. Often I set a time, and an alarm clock to wake me up, but I'm not sure whether that is the right thing to do.
No, because in samadhi, you're not supposed to be asleep.
Yeah, I'm not. It's quite awake. It's just that the stillness can carry on forever if I don't set a time,
Okay. Yeah, but as you said, when the mind is calm, it's more spacious, then you can read some Dharma and then reflect on it. Then you can go deeper. Your understanding goes deeper.
Okay.
Yeah, you're no longer in the mind. The Dhamma goes in the heart. The understanding of Dhamma is when it's in the heart. You really feel it. Yeah, the intuitive knowing. Okay.
Yeah. I think I need to get some Dharma to read.
You don't have any books, do you? I'm sure you have one or two. Of course, there are Dhamma talks on YouTube. There are many. And if you like something light-hearted or more entertaining, you can go to Ajahn Brahm. You know Ajahn Brahm, right? Okay, Carolyn, I'll send you a few names on email. Yeah. He can be very entertaining. But if you like something deeper, you have to watch my video. Because sometimes people complain that my teaching is too deep. So I said, if it's too deep, go to Ajahn Brahm.
Bhante, for the Dharma, is it better to read the Dharma book or just a sutta?
I would say you can read some sutta, but I find it too dry. My personal preference is somebody like, say, Ajahn Chah. You know Ajahn Chah? Because it's very simple, but it's just so clear, Yeah. Because what was unique about Ajahn Chah is that he was not a scholarly monk. His wisdom came from practice and observing the mind, and of course observing nature and village life and so on.
Yeah, his book is more on the practice of meditation and Dharma.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And to use mindfulness in daily life. You know,
Bhante,
how you're reacting to situation, how you're reacting to situations like this.
Bhante,
Whether
I
it's
have a
pleasant
question.
or unpleasant. Yeah.
Bhante, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
You know, today I came across an video in the YouTube, and there's a small child, like like 5-year-old child, and that child can speak like several languages, right? Like Hindi, and he spoke like um, uh, English language without any accent. They speak like a North American accent. How that thing happens? Like he knows about the stars, and he was talking about like he was in the he was flying in the sun, and a lot of stories. It is very strange to have such a deep knowledge about biology and dinosaurs, all that kind of thing, at a
Yes.
child of that age in a very poor village in Sri Lanka, and very very uh, poor neighborhood. How that
Yes,
thing
yes.
happen? Is that mind is thoughts are coming outside, or is it generated inside, or what's the
It doesn't
what's the
matter.
tech there?
Let's just say, just appreciate the mystery of it. It's one of the mysteries of life. Because if you want to ask too many questions, was it from previous lifetimes, or, what happened? Was he blessed by a god or the Buddha or deity? You're grasping, the mind is grasping for answers. And the more we are grasping for answers, for information,
Yeah.
we lose the mystery of life. And I tell people in Malaysia and Singapore this, they're always asking me, how can you explain that? How can you explain that? And I said, if you want to explanations for everything, you just fill your mind up with more trivia. Appreciate the mystery of life. Appreciate the mystery of life. And the very fact that I can expand my mind out into the galaxy is also a great mystery. And to experience the three-dimensional quality of the galaxy. To me, that's a great mystery. Because if you ever lied, beneath the night sky, initially, it's a two-dimensional image. What you see is two-dimensional image. But if you just relax the mind, calm the mind, and your mind becomes more expansive, more spacious, then you can experience three-dimensional reality of the galaxy. Really.
Yes, sir. Yes, Bhante. And the other thing that I could catch my interest was, like you said, the infinite is like in the moment, right? And if you take a little length, for instance, say 1 inch, and if you can divide into the infinite segments, right? Is that so? So it is very interesting that infinity and finite is the same thing again.
That's right. That's right. Just like eternity is now.
Yeah.
Whereas initially I thought it was,
we are looking
far
at
distant in the future. That's
Yeah.
right. But eternity is now. It's a timeless state of the universe. This is why I always laugh or smile when I hear these scientists and cosmologists, are obsessing about the beginning of the universe and even possible endings of the universe. I have to just laugh at it because they're trapped in thinking, in dualistic thinking.
Yeah.
Beginning and ending.
I think, Bhante, there's lots of money involved in there to
Right.
research and stuff. So I think we can't blame them too. They
Yes.
have to go through that part to.
And of course, they're all harping on and on about the Big Bang.
Big Bang, and and there's a lot of money involved there, like a capital already kept there, and so people are getting to that. So it is not unnatural too.
Yes. And even more crazy, they're even speculating what was before the Big Bang, even seconds before the Big Bang.
Yeah.
I mean, these people have obviously nothing better to do.
Yeah. but the funding, there's funding coming into that kind of thing. So that will go on,
That's
to
right.
research on that kind of thing. So
That's right. And as you said last week, when we get into atoms and what we call cosmic energy, that's another great mystery.
yeah,
How the atoms in our bodies have been recycled many, many times, in different life forms, in water, of course, water vapor. It's been, some of the atoms in our bodies have been around the planet many, many times in terms of, water vapor, clouds, rain, and so on. And all of the great mysteries of life.
and
And
some people speculate on, if it's like a blockchain, if something happened in one place and it happens in the other place too, like it is connected, the whole thing, like, and there's another thing like that too. So but the thing is to give it up, like you have to empty the mind, empty the memory, right? So a lot of clutter in there.
That's right.
Okay, thank you, Bhante. I think it is very informative today, and I was very interested to hear that. Okay, the infinity of the is in this present movement, like.
And we mentioned too that some of the atoms in our bodies were once in the bodies of, say, dinosaurs that lived millions of years ago.
Yeah.
So we're related to dinosaurs, whether we like it or not. And of course, in plants, mineral, water, of course, and so on. So some of these atoms were in the sky, quite recently. Yeah.
Bhante,
it's a wonderful mystery.
Yeah. Okay, then. Thank you, Bhante. There's another question coming up.
Is there time for one more question?
Yes.
So my question is, I've been studying Buddhism for quite a while now. I was born into Buddhism, but the problem that I have is I have this like craving or need to want to learn more about the world in which we live in, right? Like the universe. So I did my undergrad in astrophysics and I'm doing my master's now. And the problem that I have is it's this craving for knowledge, right? To want to experience life and to want to just learn more and more. So my problem is how do I get rid of that craving? Does that make sense?
Yes. First, you have to understand there's craving just for general knowledge, and that can be fascinating. And you can keep studying and studying until your last days. There's no end. But at the same time, we must have this self-understanding, what we call self-knowledge. What is this human condition? The human condition, what is it really? Because this is what the Dhamma is about, right? The laws of nature, which includes the human condition, the body-mind process. And our feelings, emotions, and of course our thoughts, how dukkha, mental emotional suffering, how it arises and how we can deal skillfully with dukkha, the phenomenon of dukkha. So when you look at somebody like the Buddha, you can see that he was a great healer. He was a great healer, and he was a psychologist and also a psychotherapist. Quite amazing. And what he realized about the nature of the world and the laws of nature are what environmental scientists are discovering now, after such a long time ago. How everything is so intricately connected, intricately interdependent. Because normally in our everyday minds, we don't see that. Especially, when we're busy. When we're busy and we're preoccupied, we don't have time to really calm the mind and go and reflect deeply on how things are really connected. So next week, I'll be speaking about this. the teaching of dependent origination or dependent co-arising. It's fantastic. What scientists are realizing now is something that the Buddha realized over 2,500 years ago. So it's good to have, to study, have information, how humans evolved from being hunters and gatherers, lived in simple groups, and how we settled down with agriculture, and how the start of civilization and different occupations and so on and so forth. It's very fascinating. So it's good to learn about the human history, the human world, and about, of course, the human condition, who we really are. Then we have more wisdom. We have more wisdom. And I would say, don't take the Big Bang Theory too seriously. Because I tend to question the Big Bang, I question it. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, you can have a look at my book. I have a Q&A section in my book that you'll find interesting. Let's see, if you have just send me an email and I'll send you the information.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah. I think you have my email address, do you?
Yes, I can get it from Visita, actually. Yeah.
Yes, you can get it from him. And I'll give you some information. That's
That
right.
would be wonderful. I would appreciate that very much.
Who's interesting to watch sometimes is Sadhguru. Have you heard of Sadhguru?
Yeah, I have actually. I've listened to some of his videos that he has on YouTube.
Yes, yeah. He has a lot of common sense.
For sure.
And a good sense of humor. Good sense of humor.
Yeah, Bhante, just want to make a comment. I think even though science has advanced so much, that there are still two frontiers that science has not been able to explain. One is the mind, the other one is the universe. I think it's interesting you mentioned that the universe is timeless. I was reading the other day that in the past, I think the scientists was treating the time as another separate entity, and a space as a three dimension. But now I think they are thinking that time should be treated as another dimension, which
yes.
I find fascinating.
Yeah. And some cosmologists are talking about multiverses. But they get more complicated, right? Because they're trapped in thinking. Concepts and so on. Yeah.
Because it's just hard to explain the universe.
That's right. Yeah. And they need to empty their minds. They need to empty their minds and experience it as a reality, as a three-dimensional reality. Then they will not be so obsessed about, the beginning of the universe and the ending of the universe. And what happened before the Big Bang. Yeah. But that's the nature of the mind, of the intellect, the limitations of the thinking mind. It's very limited, very limited.
I like your background, it's very serene.
I'm actually on a tropical island. Do you like the tropical sunset?
Are you going to get your vaccine? Can I go and get
Are you going to get your vaccine?
the vaccine, the COVID?
No, I'm not. But people are very excited about it. Some people are excited. Some people are skeptical. They're skeptical of the vaccine. Yeah. Is it coming to Malaysia soon?
Next year, I think first quarter.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'm one of the skeptical ones.
Right. It was like every winter. Many people have the flu. the flu shot, they call it. Yeah. But I've never taken it. But some people take it every winter. Yeah. And sometimes it's beneficial, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it depends on the virus, the different viruses, and how they mutate and so on. Yeah. So is there still a lockdown, or is the lockdown over now in Malaysia?
It is still called conditional movement control order, but then now they are open for interstate travel. So it's quite very strange.
Right.
Basically, I think it's for economic consideration.
Yes. Mm-hmm. At least you can walk outside, right? You can walk outside. That's good.
We go shopping and go marketing and all that. No problem.
That's good. Yeah. But I think the Singapore border is still closed. I think it's still closed, right?
Yeah, it's still closed. I think except for those who are working in Singapore, I think they can travel daily, but limited to certain number of people.
Right. And I guess they need special permit, right? They need special permit, right? Yeah.
Bhante, thank you for the profound teaching.
Oh, you're very welcome. So I'll hope to meet you next week. Next week. Hope to meet you next week.
We hope to meet you